Hi. So for my senior project, I decided to paint a mural on school campus. So I chose this project because I've been in MSA drawing and painting for 4 years now, and I had my first experience with spray paint last year when I was part of the mural that's on the side of the PAC. I don't know if you've seen it driving to school or not, but I was part of that with my classmates. And that was a really cool experience for me. That was the first time I've ever used spray paint as a medium, and that's the first time I've ever painted in that kind of style, in that kind of way. And being in AP Art for my second year now, I have to create a portfolio of 15 pieces with a common theme throughout all of them. And this year I decided that I wanted my theme to be exploring my artistic independence and exploring my own personal style. And the only way I know how to do that is to step outside of my comfort zone and do things that I'm not very comfortable with, and do things I have little to no experience with. So that's why I thought this project was going to be really good for me. So this is where my wall is. It's in the product design shop. And it's a really large wall. It's like 48 feet long and 13 feet tall, and it's 434 square feet, which is a lot of space. So I decided this would be a perfect spot for my wall because it's big, and big is scary and big is challenging. And I think this room also needed some brightening up and some action so to make it look a little more inviting. And Mr. Knutson was lucky enough or happy enough to let me use his wall. There are a few obstacles that I have to think about when I was painting. There is a window in the middle of the room, if you see right there, and then there's a door on the other side that I obviously can't paint over, so I have to figure out how to maneuver around those. And then also the room is covered in pipes. There are pipes on the ceiling, there's pipes on the floor, there's pipes on the walls, and there's some attached to this wall, like one right over here, that I can't move. So I have to figure out how to maneuver around those. So before I could start even thinking about painting on the wall, I had to begin developing a concept, because that's what you have to do for all of your art before you start taking it to the canvas or to the wall. And I developed this concept with the product design students because I thought, well, this is going up in their classroom pretty much. They should have a say in what I'm doing on their wall. It's only fair. So we all agreed that we wanted something with warm colors and kind of bright and happy, because that room is very dull and kind of brown and gray, and just bright colors would help liven up the room a little bit. And I had to get this concept approved by both Miss Cortez and Mr. Brewer before I could begin painting directly onto the wall. So the material I decided to use was spray paint, and I did use this because spray paint is something I'm not completely comfortable with, and I wanted to challenge myself with this medium. And because I used this on the wall in the PAC, I thought this would be a great idea. So I'm using the same brand that I used for that mural. It's called Montana Colors. They're really good paints. They're water-based, which is super nice for painting indoors because it's not alcohol-based, and it doesn't have a really strong fume, and it's not as bad for you to breathe in. So that's good because I'm going to be painting indoors and it's a contained space. And I learned a whole bunch of techniques for using spray paint from Ryan Peterson, who is a local muralist, and he was the person who helped me and my class paint that mural on the PAC. And I also learned techniques from my own art teacher, Miss Mancini. And I actually reached out to this company, Montana Colors, and I asked them if they would be willing to sponsor or help me pay for these paints, because they're really expensive and shipping is really expensive too. So they actually responded to me, and they said while they wish they could give me a sponsorship, they couldn't because they are based overseas and they didn't want to ship stuff over to the States. But they did give me a little brand deal and gave me some money off on my purchase, which was really nice. And they even sent me extra cans and stickers and stuff, so that was really fun. So before I could start painting the wall, I had to clean it because this wall has not been cleaned in a really long time. Mr. Knutson, the person whose classroom this is, he said that there's at least 10 years of dirt on the wall because the shop is full of like wood cutting machines and stuff, so there's a whole bunch of dust that gets thrown in the air every single day that the students are working in there. So I had to go through and remove a whole bunch of nails on the wall from things that had been hanging up and then were taken down. And then I had to fill in the holes with painter's putty, so I had a smooth surface to paint on. And I also had to wash the wall, like a really thorough washing. And I used a broom with a wet rag on top because the wall's so tall. I had to get inventive with how I reached up there. And I figured out that that worked pretty well. So this is me preparing to paint. So I wanted to test out a couple different ideas before I actually put my paint on directly on the wall. So that's what I did over here. I used 2 small canvases to test different colors and different washes because that was my plan. And I tested, like, on the top one I tested orange with a yellow wash, and then on the bottom I tested orange and red with a yellow wash, and so I could see what it would look like before I just threw it up on the wall. And then in the middle I have this ladder that I had to use to paint because the wall is so tall. I had no other way to reach the top of it, so that was a little scary, but it turned out okay, so that's good. And then over here is my little spray paint cheat sheet, I call it, because it tells you what all these different caps do, because changing the cap can change the width of the spray and how fine of a line you can make. So like if you want to fill in a space, you would use a thicker cap on this side because that would cover more area, and if you wanted to outline something, you would use a thinner cap like over here. So that was really helpful for me too. So this is what the wall looks like after day 8. It's my first bit of progress. I covered a lot of space in 8 days, which is all by myself, pretty impressive. I just kind of started painting. I just let it flow, I guess, and just threw up. Like, I wasn't gonna strictly follow my concept. I just wanted it to be organic and natural, and I started over on this side and let it come over here, and I started working in this direction, and you can kind of see that I got more comfortable the further I progressed to the right, because it looks more cohesive. Over here there's a couple more like empty spaces that look a little awkward, but here it's more combined. I don't know, so I figured out how to tackle that and get more comfortable the more painting I did. And over here in this corner I just wrote out my plans for my progress. I wrote out what I had to do in order to start painting, what I had to do when I started painting, how much I wanted to cover and when, and yeah. So this is the wall after day 10. I covered a lot more space. I actually finished all of the right hand side. It came a little bit over the door, you can see, and that's all done. I decided to leave some white space over on this end, and then I had to go back over and start working on the left side. But I've been working, luckily enough, during school because my art teacher lets me go into the shop for 1 period since I have a block with her. So she lets me use one of those periods to work on it, which was really nice. So I could get an hour during school days, roughly. And then I'd also have to work after school and over weekends whenever it fit in between my extracurriculars and my schoolwork. So on weekends I was lucky enough to get like 5 hours of work just in a row to knock it out, and that was really helpful too. So now here's some detail shots of my work. So this is the part over the door. You can see up close, you see all the little designs. It's just abstracted stuff, and this was actually on the left hand side, what I finished up over on that side. And I decided to go with that shape because at this point I had already gone through 3 cans of orange spray paint, and I just realized it wasn't smart to decide to cover the entire wall in this design because that wasn't a smart way to use my paints and my materials. So I thought to conserve that, and to make it still interesting, I would make a little shape and have it swoop up, and that interacts with the space enough that it doesn't look unfinished or like that white space was unintentional. It looks very intentional, which is what I wanted. And then the style also, like over here you can see, it allows me to work around all these obstacles in the way, like the pipes and the doors and these little cabinets he has hung up on the wall that he couldn't remove for me. So this style makes it very easy for me to maneuver around those, and it looks pretty cohesive and good. So that's good. So after I finished the spray paint came the wash, and a wash is an artistic technique where you dilute paint with water, and it creates a semi-transparent layer of color over top of what you did, over like the detail you did in paint or whatever. And I decided to use this pretty raw sienna kind of color. It's like a burnt yellow, almost like a darker yellow, and it's an indoor house paint with an eggshell finish, which means it's a flat finish, it's not shiny or anything, and that's what I wanted. Then here is the actual wash where I mixed it with water, so it's a very loose and liquidy kind of paint. And then this is me actually spreading it on the wall. So I had an extension pole with a roller to paint it up and down the wall, and it was really wet and there were a lot of streaks. You could tell because when I put it up, the paint would just run down in like rivulets, and that was really hard to deal with because it came out really streaky. But I figured out if you just went back over your spots and worked slowly and tediously, that it would turn out looking pretty smooth. So it looked okay. So this is how far I got. This is what the wall looks like right now if you were to go see it. I wasn't able to finish. I was really close. I finished the whole right hand side. It's all done all the way over to the wall, painted with the wash and everything, but I just needed to finish the little spots on the left side. But you can tell how the wash looks on top of the paint. It looks really good and cool, and I'm really excited about that. But I'm sad I wasn't able to finish. So this is the final product. This is what I have to show to you because the wall is on school campus. So when the shelter in place was enacted and school closed and campus closed, that provided complications for my project. I wasn't really able to work on it because I needed access to get into the room. I needed people in the room with me because there's a lot of sharp machines and stuff in there. So the administrators don't really want me in there by myself, and I just wasn't able to work on the wall. So I really think I only need a day to finish, just to finish the rest of the wash and take off all the blue tape around the walls and the window. And I don't want to leave the wall unfinished because I don't think that's fair to the school or to Mr. Knudsen. So I'm hoping that the restrictions will lift enough sometime in the future that I can go back in just one day and finish up and not leave it looking like that. So yeah, my culminating event was going to be the reveal of my finished wall to students and teachers, but quarantine didn't allow for me to do that. So, and there was a huge learning curve with this project, a really big learning curve. It was definitely challenging and difficult, but it was also really rewarding. So this project challenged me to work outside of my comfort zone, and it gave me experience working on really large surfaces, which I've never done before. I've never painted on something this big by myself, so that was definitely a challenge. And it taught me the effort required to conduct such a large project by myself, which was a lot of effort required. And it let me express myself through my art, which was really exciting. And it pushed me to interact with companies and adopt a leadership role while executing this. So I had to reach out to like the spray paint company and interact with product design students. And it also showed me that doing really big art can be fun, intimidating, but also really rewarding. So thank you. Thank you for letting me paint on your walls. I had a really good time, and I'm glad I can leave a little bit of myself on campus.